The Spider Prophecy by David Hirst. Chapter 1. Despite being a windless morning, the aircraft visibly swayed back and forth in the cloudless sky as it made its approach to the dust field that was known locally as the airport. According to their travel representative, there was supposed to be a bench, but this was proved not to be the case, leaving the passengers to choose between either standing up or sitting on their suitcases as they waited to depart from the island. Nervous about the flight, Daniel Martin took a large sip of his water to lubricate his dry throat. He instantly wished he hadn't and spat the warm, stale liquid onto the dusty ground, leaving a dark patch where it landed. Daniel glanced around to see if anyone had noticed. That seemed doubtful as the rest of the passengers appeared to be more preoccupied with thoughts relating to whether or not the wings on the aircraft were going to remain intact. That was with the exception of Amanda. Why on earth she was on a holiday like this baffled him. All the other passengers were wearing comfortable clothing and a hat. Amanda was dressed in a miniskirt, tight-fitting top and high heels. She was dressed more for a night out in Chavsville than a flight in a cramped plane in sweltering heat. Instead, she exaggerated countless sighs as she dragged her long, painted fingernails repeatedly over the screen of her smartphone. "I still can't get internet. Why did we have to come to the only place in the world without the internet?" Amanda groaned in frustration. The brochure said that this was a break away from all the stresses of the 21st century and would give us more time to concentrate on the more important things in life, replied Chris, her boyfriend, in a manner that suggested that this wasn't the first time these words had left his mouth. Physically, Chris was exactly the type of boyfriend that someone like Amanda would be expected to be seen with. He was tall, good-looking and muscular. However, it was obvious to all that Amanda was the one wearing the pants in their relationship. "It didn't bring us away from stress, just from the 21st century. It feels like we're in 18th century Victorian times." Lisa, Daniel's stepmother, looked to her husband Henry and shook her head, advising him not to correct her. Henry looked slightly disappointed as, like when he watched a quiz show, he always felt the need to share his vast knowledge of unimportant facts with the world. Amanda continued, "What's the point in going on an exotic holiday if you can't gloat about it on Facebook?" "Well, I thought it would be nice spending time together," suggested Chris, putting his feelings delicately out on a limb. "So what are we going to talk about?" "I can't talk about my friends because I don't know what they're doing." "Our friends," Chris corrected. A raised eyebrow from Amanda suggested the contrary. "We can't talk about work because we're not there." "At least I don't have to listen to you moan about your job for a change," she shrugged. "But other than that, I can't wait to get off this island." "I hate to have to tell you this," Henry piped up. "But I don't think they have the internet on the next island either." "Do you always butt into other people's conversations?" Amanda snarled. I stuttered Henry. "If you want to keep your bickering private, then you're better off doing it in private," suggested Daniel. "Oh, right," Amanda began, her anger chipping its way out. "Giving you a good show, are we?" She looked all around her. "Do you all have such boring lives that you have to listen to other people's arguments?" "Well, there is no internet," Daniel admitted. "Are you going to let him speak to me like that?" Amanda asked Chris incredulously. Chris did what he was told and marched over to Daniel and bore down on him. Lisa stepped between them. As she led Daniel away, she turned to Chris. "You should work out your problems in private instead of taking them out on lads half your size. Mummy fighting your battles now for you, is she?" Chris taunted. "She's not my mother," Daniel needlessly informed him. "Next you'll be telling me that he's not your granddad," he laughed. Henry looked ashamed, hoping that he hadn't embarrassed his son. Daniel had now joined the others and resumed his seat on his suitcase. The warm, stale water seemed to taste better now. Having gained brownie points with Amanda for his support, Chris continued to taunt Daniel. "So what's the deal with you guys anyway?" The others chose to ignore him. "Oh, not so interested in what I've got to say now, are you?" Chris now felt that he was on a roll. "So you two are on honeymoon and you bring your 18-year-old son with you. Are you here to help if your old man can't get it up?" Daniel rose to his feet and ran for Chris. Lisa, Henry and a woman to whom he didn't know held him back. Henry was telling him that he wasn't worth it and Daniel began to calm down. Chris shook his head and snarled at Daniel in disgust as he turned away. In a moment of madness and exemplary throwing skills, Daniel managed to hurl his bottle from 15 feet away right at Chris's head. Then the realization of what he had done hit him. The blood drained from Daniel's face like the contents of the bottle drained down Chris's back. However, the blood that had drained from Daniel's face wasn't entirely lost, as it had managed to find its way into Chris's face as he strode towards him, pushing past Henry, Lisa and whoever else got in the way, before laying Daniel out with one punch. "Daniel? Daniel?" spoke a muffled female voice. Raised voices, equally as muffled but considerably louder, pounded in his head. Suddenly he sat up, remembering what had just happened. "Where did he go?" Daniel asked. "Did he run away?" "Forget about him," said Lisa. "Henry. He's coming to. Are you all right, son?" "Yeah, I'm fine," answered Daniel, sitting up and preparing to climb to his feet. "Don't try and get up," Henry advised him. "I think you should take a few minutes. He hit you pretty hard." "It wasn't that," said Daniel. "I think I slipped when I tried to dodge the punch, and I must have hit my head on the floor." "Harder than expected by the looks of things," said a woman with a West Indian accent. "Here, have a drink of this," she said, rummaging through her shoulder bag and pulling out a bottle containing a clear liquid. "It's not booze, is it?" asked Henry. "It's water," said the woman. Henry held the bottle to his son's mouth to feed the water to him, but Daniel snatched it away, making eye contact with Chris, who was sporting a smarmy grin. Henry saw this and held down Daniel's arm to prevent him from trying to make 2 shots in a row. "This water tastes funny," commented Daniel, indirectly to the woman who had given it to him. "That will be the concussion," Henry informed him. "It can do that to your taste buds." "It's not that," said the woman. "It's herbal water." "Herbal water?" asked Daniel, hinting at her to elaborate. "Are you giving my son drugs?" asked Henry, looking up at the woman with narrow eyes. "They're not drugs. They're herbs," insisted the woman. "Isn't gangi, or ganga, or whatever you call it, a herb? It's just a little something to relax the nerves. It's harmless. So why aren't you drinking it?" Lisa pointed out. "Because I was saving it for the flight," she answered, casting a wry eye over her shoulder. The Martins stopped to observe the twin-propeller rust bucket as it touched down amid a cloud of dust on the far side of the runway, which completely engulfed the aeroplane, causing them to wonder if it had actually crashed upon landing. After a tense few seconds, the sound of a lawn-mower engine whined out, telling the passengers that their flight had arrived on time plus 60 minutes. "Have you got any more of that water?" asked Henry, breaking the silence. "Don't worry," said Dominique, the Jamaican woman. "Flying's the safest way to travel. As long as you're not on that thing," said Daniel with a nervous laugh. "Maybe we should leave it. We could always catch the next flight," suggested Lisa. "There's not going to be another flight until next week," Dominique informed them. "Great," Lisa sighed. "We don't have any accommodation either," said Daniel. "And I don't think the next one's going to be an Emirates A380 for some reason." "It will probably be this exact same plane," speculated Henry, nodding over to the aircraft that was taxiing over to the passengers. "If it hasn't crashed by then," Daniel added. The plane came to a complete stop outside the collection point and was met by the passengers. A rummaging and, subsequently a banging, noise reverberated from somewhere within the fuselage before the door was finally pushed open with a clunk. "Hello, everyone. Nice to see you again," said Graham, the tour representative, in a cheery voice as he shielded his eyes and his shiny bald head from the sun. "Sorry that we're a little bit late," he put in, before anyone else had the chance. "We had a few minor problems with the plane." "Why does that not surprise me?" groaned Chris from the comfort of his vantage point over the short sleight of build tour guide. Graham chose not to engage the comment and instead chose to observe the other passengers. He brought his clipboard out from under his arm and flicked a couple of pages over, which, despite the lack of wind, seemed reluctant to stay in their changed position. "It appears that we are 2 people short," Graham announced. "So if I can just do a quick roll call, well, we have the Martins, I see. Henry, Lisa and David?" he guessed. Daniel growled. Daniel. It came as no surprise to him that he had forgotten his name, as he never bothered to talk to him on the numerous occasions that he came over to speak to the family. He was sure that he wouldn't have forgotten Lisa's name unless he accidentally called her tits, as he spent a fair amount of time staring at them. "Doesn't it actually say our names on the sheet?" asked Daniel. "Well, it just says D. Martin," Graham informed him. "So you didn't bother to learn my name and couldn't even guess when you were given the first letter?" "Amanda Scott?" he asked. Amanda grunted in a take-it-or-leave-it acknowledgement without breaking eye contact with her non-responsive phone from her seated position on top of Chris's suitcase. "Christopher Jackson?" "Chris Jackson," corrected Chris, in no uncertain terms. At that point, the pilot emerged from the plane. He was tall with short, dark hair, an athletic build and well-crafted features. He smoldered sex appeal from behind the mirrored sunglasses that he wore with an air of confidence. This man wouldn't have been out of place on the cover of one of those magazines aimed at aspiring professional men. He gave the passengers a brief once-over before performing a few checks on the outside of the plane. If Graham had failed to get Amanda's attention, the pilot certainly didn't have the same trouble as she focused her gaze away from her phone for the first time since they had been there. "Dominique Clark?" Graham asked. Dominique held up a finger from out of her arms folded position as she stood close to the Martins. "So, it looks like we are waiting for a Thomas Burton and a Kieran Lebowski," Graham concluded. "Waiting for?" grilled Chris. "The plane is over an hour late and they still can't make it. I say we go." "Well, I hardly think that's fair," said Graham. "Would you like it if you were running late and the plane took off without you? So, is it fair to those that arrived on time to stand around here because the seats that were supposed to be here don't exist for over an hour in the baking sun, while these other guys get to spend that time lying in bed in an air-conditioned apartment?" asked Daniel. "No," admitted Graham. "But I still think that we should wait." "For how long?" asked Chris. "Are you going to call them?" "I'm sorry, but I can't. You see, there's no phone reception here," Graham informed them. "Really?" "Nobody had noticed," said Daniel. "I know it seems unfair," said Henry, unable to resist the opportunity to intervene. "But we can't just wait here. We don't know if they're coming or not, and we don't have a vehicle to get back into town with, so that leaves one of us with an hour-long walk, plus the time it takes to locate and bring these passengers here. Besides, your pilot won't want to wait all day. Airlines only make money when their planes are in the air. It's an independent charter company the pilot cut in. So I get paid whatever happens. But if you're here all day, that means that you won't be able to fly any other passengers, which means that you will lose money," Henry pointed out. "I don't have any other passengers today, and besides, I work on an hourly rate, so if we're stuck here for 3 more hours, then I get paid more." "And what do we get for being stuck here?" asked Chris, directly to Graham. Well, I don't know. Maybe we can sort you out with some vouchers?" Graham suggested as the faces around him formed a frown in unison. "What I think," Dominique began, "is that we go back into town, report your travel company for negligence, and put in a personal complaint about you," she said, pointing at Graham. "Me? Why is it my fault?" "Because you are the one that is keeping us here," Dominique concluded. "She's got you there," said Lisa. "Look, I'm the captain, and I will be the one to decide when we leave," said the pilot. "But you are employed by the travel company," Henry braved. "So it's the travel company's representative that gets the final say, Mr. Captain Stubbs. And no, because that is my plane, so whether we leave or not depends on whether or not I decide to fly it away." "Well, that's not a very good way of conducting business," Henry commented. "Well," mused Graham. "I suppose they have been given long enough," he sighed. "Yes," shouted Chris, punching the air. "Let's get the hell out of here." Graham shook his head and sighed. "Follow me please," he said, leading them over to the plane. "If you can all pass your bags to Captain Stubbs, then he can load up and we will soon be on our way." "There are more bags here than people," commented Stubbs in an accusing manner. "Who's got more than one bag?" "I need more than one bag," Amanda appealed. "1 bag per passenger," Stubbs informed her. "It doesn't matter anyway. We are 2 passengers short, so I could have brought 1 more bag if I had known," Amanda pointed out. Stubbs shrugged his shoulders and began to take the suitcases from them. "Can you put mine in last?" Amanda asked. "I don't want my stuff getting squashed." "You can put ours on the bottom," Henry told Stubbs as a peace offering between his family and the 220-somethings. "Okay," said Stubbs, opening up the nose section and placing the Martin's cases at the bottom. "They're going in there?" gasped Amanda. "Where is the engine? You see those 2 big things on the wings?" Daniel asked her. "Are you trying to be funny?" asked Chris, snapping the olive branch that Henry had offered them. "I didn't think I was actually trying," commented Daniel. "I've had enough of you," said Chris, pointing over at Daniel. "And we'll be sorting this out when we get to the next island." "Look," said Stubbs. "I don't care if you guys beat each other's brains out after we land, but until then, either of you cause any trouble, then I'll put the plane down at the first piece of land I see, and I'll be kicking you both out, understand?" He received a shrug of the shoulders from Daniel and a whatever from Chris. Chris didn't want to lose face in front of Amanda, but he would be more concerned if he was thrown off the plane in the middle of nowhere, allowing the handsome pilot to have a free crack at his girlfriend. After laying down the law, Stubbs began to place the suitcases in the luggage compartment. Just when he was slotting Dominique's into place, a buzzing noise that moments earlier was faint and distant changed from a status of insignificant background noise to a full-blown, unignorable ear-pulling crackle. Everyone turned around to the source of the noise to discover a motorbike approaching. The bike came closer to reveal a tall, thin, balding man in a suit, sitting almost on the tank as he rode in order to allow enough room for the pale, overweight, ginger-haired man on the back. Looks like we might need that storage space after all, commented Stubbs. Amanda threw him a sour glare and kept with the same expression as the late arrivals dismounted. "Hey there," said the overweight man as he stepped off the bike before it had come to a complete standstill. "My name's Kieran Lebowski," he said in an American accent, offering his large, sweaty, doughy hand out to shake. "Captain Stubbs," said the captain, busying his hands with a bright pink suitcase to avoid any physical contact with the man. "Graham Parkinson," said Graham, shaking his hand, not realizing his error until it was too late. "Sorry we're late," he continued. "Our transportation let us down. We had to buy that thing just to make this flight. I hope you weren't waiting for us long." Graham was just about to speak when Daniel piped up. "We've been waiting for over an hour." "More like 5 minutes," Graham corrected amid nervous laughter. "Speak for yourself. Just because you were late too doesn't mean we haven't been stuck here in the blazing heat." Daniel Henry hissed. "Well, it's true, isn't it?" "Well, thanks for waiting for us," said Kieran. "We feared that you would have left without us." "The thought never crossed our minds," said Chris. However, Graham ignored the comment this time, choosing instead to welcome the other passenger. "Mr. Burton, I take it." "Come on," said Thomas Burton. "Time is money. We're already an hour late." "Don't worry. It's not going to cost you any more than it would have done. If I miss my meeting, it's going to cost me a hell of a lot more than you will earn in your entire life," he said, striding towards the plane. "Put your case in the cargo hold?" asked Graham. "That thing is for suitcases. Mine is a briefcase, and I can't risk it getting mixed up with the worthless trinkets of some holidaymakers," he scoffed. "Which leaves enough room for both my suitcases," chirped Amanda. Stubbs shrugged his shoulders and placed Amanda's case in the hold as he produced a faintest of smiles for the first time in their presence, causing a wobbling effect in Amanda's legs. Chris alternated his stare between the two of them for a tense moment until Lebowski trundled over, shrugging off his backpack as he walked. "Could you put this in the hold for me, man?" Lebowski asked, swinging the pack by one of the handles. Stubbs caught it by the other at the same time as he spotted the look of horror on Amanda's face when she noticed a large damp sweat patch covering 90% of the surface area of the back of Lebowski's light blue shirt. This brought another, more broader smile from Stubbs as he firmly placed the backpack on top of the bright pink suitcase, which now sported a similar damp patch to the one on Lebowski's shirt. This time, however, Stubbs' smile wasn't met with jelly legs and instead consisted of clenched fists and a chevron brow. The inside of the plane made the outside feel like a cool breeze on a hot day on some remote Caribbean island. The stifling heat and lack of oxygen caused everyone to comment negatively as they boarded. "Can't we open a few windows in here?" Daniel asked Riley. "The only window which will be opened is mine," Stubbs announced. "Wait," gasped Amanda. "You're opening the windows? Won't we get sucked off?" "Only if we're lucky," Kieran laughed. "We won't be flying at an altitude high enough to require the cabin to be pressurized," informed Stubbs. "However, if, in the unlikely event that we need to climb higher, we do have oxygen masks," he added. "I think we may need those sooner than you think with this heat," Henry commented. "Don't worry," said Stubbs. "Once we take off, everything will be fine." "Speak for yourself," muttered Dominique as he at the front of the plane, across from where Graham sat. Behind them sat Chris and Amanda, followed by Henry and Lisa. This was in order to separate Chris and Daniel to prevent any fallouts, literally. Daniel had definitely drawn the short straw, both in the eyes of the others and in himself as he was sat adjacent to Kieran, who, despite there being an aisle space between them, still managed to brush his leg against his. If there happened to be an emergency, then this would put Thomas in the worst position, as he would be the only person behind Kieran. Not that this was any concern to Daniel, seeing as Thomas was the one who insisted having the vacant seat for his precious briefcase, which was apparently more valuable than everyone else's life on the plane put together. "This is your captain speaking," said Stubbs. This got him the divided attention of about 30% of the passengers. "If we have to make an emergency landing, then put your head between your legs so you can kiss your arse goodbye," he joked as he trundled down the runway, finally gaining enough speed to pull the heavy bird up and out into the clear blue sky. End of chapter 1.